Family is everything, Jennifer would add during these conversations. Professional success and personal achievements don't mean anything if you don't have people who love you and support you through life's challenges. These expressions of family values seemed genuine and suggested that marriage had indeed helped Michael develop more mature perspectives on relationships and responsibilities. I was hopeful that we were building the kind of close, supportive, family connections that would provide mutual benefit and satisfaction for years to come. During the Christmas holidays in 2023, Michael and Jennifer organized elaborate family celebrations that seemed to demonstrate their commitment to creating meaningful traditions and shared experiences that would strengthen our family bonds. "We want to make this Christmas really special," Jennifer announced in early December. "It's our first Christmas with you living nearby, and we want to establish traditions that we can continue for years to come." They planned a week of holiday activities, including decorating both of our homes, cooking traditional family meals, attending Christmas concerts and community events, and exchanging gifts that reflected thoughtful consideration of each other's interests and preferences. The Christmas celebration was indeed special and provided exactly the kind of family togetherness I had hoped for when planning my retirement relocation. We spent Christmas Eve at my house with a formal dinner that Jennifer prepared using recipes that had been family traditions during my marriage to James. Christmas Day was celebrated at their house with a casual brunch followed by gift exchange and family activities that created wonderful memories and photo opportunities. "This has been the best Christmas I've had in years," I told them during our Christmas Day celebration. Having family to share the holidays with makes retirement feel like the beginning of a wonderful new chapter rather than the end of my productive years. "We love having you here to share these celebrations," Michael replied with apparent sincerity. "It makes everything feel more meaningful when we're all together." The gift exchange revealed what seemed like genuine thoughtfulness and consideration for my interests and preferences. Michael and Jennifer had selected presents that reflected my hobbies, professional background, and personal style, while I had chosen gifts that I hoped would enhance their comfort and enjoyment of their home and lifestyle. But during the post-Christmas period, I began to notice subtle changes in the nature of our conversations and the types of topics that Michael and Jennifer introduced during our regular family interactions. "Mom, we've been thinking about some of the things we discussed during the holidays," Michael mentioned during our first January dinner. "Specifically, some of the financial planning and family goal conversations we've been having. We're hoping this might be a good time to have some more detailed discussions about our shared future and how we might be able to support each other's goals and priorities," Jennifer added, with careful attention to her tone and phrasing. These conversations marked the beginning of a transition from the honeymoon period of genuine attention and support to a more calculated phase where Michael and Jennifer began to introduce specific financial requests and expectations while maintaining the appearance of family planning and mutual benefit. "We've been researching some investment opportunities that might be interesting for family consideration," Michael explained during one of our January conversations. "There are some real estate development projects in the Denver area that could provide good returns while giving us opportunities to work together on business ventures. And we've been thinking more seriously about the house upgrade we mentioned," Jennifer added. "We found some properties that would be perfect for extended family living arrangements, and we're wondering if this might be a good time to move forward with that kind of planning." During this transition period, I also began to notice changes in the way Michael and Jennifer approached our social activities and community involvement. Instead of simply including me in their existing social networks, they began to suggest activities and events where my business background and financial resources might provide networking opportunities or investment possibilities. "There's a real estate investment seminar next week that might be interesting for both of us," Michael would suggest. "Some of the speakers are working on projects that could provide good investment opportunities, and it would be fun to attend together. And there's a charity gala coming up that supports affordable housing development," Jennifer would add. "It would be a great way for you to get involved in Denver philanthropy while potentially meeting people who share your interest in sustainable development." These suggestions seemed like natural extensions of my interests and expertise, but they were actually part of a strategy to position me within Denver's investment and philanthropy communities, where Michael and Jennifer hope to identify opportunities for family financial involvement or partnership arrangements. During February 2024, the transition from genuine family support to calculated financial positioning became more obvious as Michael and Jennifer began to introduce specific requests and expectations while framing them as family planning opportunities rather than charitable assistance. "Mom, we've been doing some serious financial planning about our future goals," Michael announced during one of our February dinners. "We're hoping to start a family soon, and we want to make sure we're positioned to provide the best possible life for our children." "The thing is," Jennifer continued, "our current house and financial situation are adequate for just the two of us. But if we want to have children and provide them with excellent educational opportunities, we need to think about some upgrades and investments." They had prepared detailed presentations about their financial goals, including spreadsheets showing their current income and expenses, projections of costs associated with having children, and research about educational expenses, housing needs, and lifestyle requirements that would be necessary to provide the kind of family life they envisioned. "We're not asking for charity," Michael was careful to emphasize. "We're hoping to explore opportunities for family investment partnerships or shared financial planning that would benefit everyone involved. And honestly," Jennifer added, "having you involved in our major financial decisions would provide security and wisdom that would benefit our entire family for generations to come." This marked the end of the honeymoon period and the beginning of systematic financial pressure that would gradually escalate over the following months until the hospital abandonment that would ultimately reveal their true priorities and lead to my inheritance decision. But during those early months of 2024, I was still interpreting their financial discussions as evidence of responsible family planning, rather than recognizing them as the beginning of an exploitation campaign that would eventually cost them nearly $6 million in inheritance and estate planning benefits. The foundation had been carefully laid during the honeymoon period, and Michael and Jennifer were now prepared to begin the systematic extraction of financial benefits that they viewed as natural consequences of my gratitude for their attention and support. What they didn't understand was that my business experience had taught me to evaluate people based on their actions during times of stress and crisis, rather than their behavior during periods of mutual benefit and convenience. The test of their true character was coming, and it would arrive in the form of a medical emergency that would reveal exactly how conditional and calculating their family loyalty actually was. But first, they would need to escalate their financial demands and demonstrate exactly how far their sense of entitlement would extend when they believed my gratitude and dependence made me vulnerable to their pressure and manipulation. The stage was being set for the confrontation that would change everything, and the medical emergency that would ultimately cost them more money than most people earn in a lifetime was still several months away. During this transition period, I remained hopeful that we were building genuine family relationships based on mutual care and support, rather than recognizing that I was actually being systematically positioned for financial exploitation by people who viewed my retirement wealth as their inheritance opportunity, rather than understanding that inheritance must be earned through demonstrated character and genuine care during times of vulnerability and need. The transition from subtle financial hints to aggressive demands began in March 2024, just 6 months after my relocation to Denver, when Michael and Jennifer apparently decided that they had invested enough time in relationship building and were ready to begin extracting substantial financial benefits from my retirement wealth and gratitude for their attention. What I had interpreted as family bonding and genuine relationship development had actually been a systematic campaign to establish dependency, gather intelligence about my resources, and position themselves as essential to my happiness before beginning the exploitation phase that would ultimately reveal their true character and cost them everything. By 6 p.m. that same evening, I'd be on the phone with my real estate attorney, finalizing the purchase of their beloved $1.8 million beachfront vacation rental in Emerald Coast, Florida, and by the following Monday, I'd be serving them with a 30-day eviction notice. All because they drove away and left me stranded on a public beach in 95-degree heat while I was recovering from hip replacement surgery and couldn't walk the half-mile back to their rental property. Before we dive into this incredible story of family betrayal during my recovery and the property acquisition that would shock them to their core, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and subscribe so you never miss stories like this one. Trust me, you're going to want to see what happens when family members abandon someone during their most vulnerable moment, especially when that someone has been quietly building a $4.2 million real estate investment portfolio for the past 30 years. My name is Eleanor Blackwood. I'm 73 years old. And this story begins 8 months ago when I agreed to spend my hip surgery recovery at my son Michael's vacation rental in Florida. A decision that would teach me the hardest lesson of my life about the difference between being family and being useful to family. But to understand how I ended up abandoned on a beach before becoming the person who would control their vacation dreams from behind a property deed, you need to know who I was before I let maternal instincts override my better judgment about family financial dynamics. For 32 years, I was Eleanor Blackwood, founding partner of Coastal Property Ventures, one of the Southeast's most successful vacation rental investment firms. I didn't just buy and flip properties. I specialized in identifying undervalued beachfront and lakefront properties, transforming them into luxury vacation rentals, and building sustainable income streams that provided both immediate cash flow and long-term appreciation. My expertise was in understanding vacation rental markets, property valuation, rental income optimization, and, most importantly, the legal structures that protect property owners and provide maximum control over their investments. I started with a $25,000 inheritance from my grandmother and an economics degree from University of Georgia when my husband Thomas died in a boating accident at age 45, leaving me with a 12-year-old son, Michael, and an absolute determination to never be financially dependent on anyone again. My first major investment was a modest beach cottage in Tybee Island that I purchased for $85,000 in 1992. While other investors focused on quick flips or traditional rentals, I saw the potential in the emerging vacation rental market. Families wanting authentic beach experiences in well-appointed homes rather than sterile hotel rooms. That first cottage generated $28,000 in rental income its first year, covering the mortgage and providing enough profit to reinvest in improvements. I spent weekends learning about interior design, vacation rental marketing, and guest experience optimization. By year 3, the property was generating $45,000 annually and had appreciated to $140,000 in value. What began as a single desperate investment to secure my son's future became a systematic approach to building wealth through vacation rental properties. Word spread through real estate networks about the property investor who understood both the financial mechanics of vacation rentals and the guest experience elements that maximized booking rates and rental premiums. My firm grew steadily through a combination of smart acquisitions, value-add renovations, and innovative rental management strategies. By the time I was 55, Coastal Property Ventures was managing a portfolio of 43 vacation rental properties across Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida, with combined annual rental income exceeding $1.8 million. The first major property that really changed my trajectory was a distressed beachfront estate in Hilton Head that I acquired in 1995 for $285,000. The previous owner had faced financial difficulties and needed to liquidate quickly. While other investors saw a rundown property with maintenance issues, I saw potential for transformation into a luxury vacation rental. I invested $95,000 in renovations, updating the kitchen and bathrooms, installing high-end finishes, creating outdoor entertainment spaces, and implementing guest amenities that would command premium rental rates. The property generated $85,000 in rental income its first year after renovation, providing both excellent cash flow and serving as a showcase for my renovation expertise. By my 50th birthday, I had developed proprietary methods for identifying undervalued vacation properties and transforming them into premium rental investments. Corporate executives seeking vacation rental investment opportunities. Professional athletes looking for passive income streams during their careers. Entertainment industry figures needing tax-advantaged investments that provided both income and appreciation. My consulting practice specialized in what I called vacation rental wealth building, systematic approaches to acquiring, renovating, and managing vacation properties that could provide substantial income while building long-term wealth through appreciation. But I didn't just manage other people's investments. I practiced what I preached, building my own vacation rental portfolio through decades of careful acquisitions, strategic renovations, and market timing that most people never understand. The foundation of my personal wealth was a collection of 17 vacation rental properties that I had acquired and developed over 3 decades. These weren't just rental properties. They were carefully selected investments in prime vacation markets that provided both substantial rental income and consistent appreciation. My flagship property was a 6-bedroom beachfront estate in Kiawa, island that I had purchased for $380,000 in 1998 and transformed into a luxury vacation rental generating $180,000 annually. The property featured panoramic ocean views, private beach access, a swimming pool, and luxury amenities that attracted high-end guests willing to pay premium rates for exceptional experiences. The renovation had cost $125,000 but transformed a dated beach house into a sophisticated retreat that commanded $3,500 per week during peak season and $20,200 per week during off-season periods. The property had appreciated to approximately $1.4 million by 2024, while producing over $2.8 million in rental income during my 26 years of ownership. My second major holding was a collection of 4 lake cottages in North Georgia that I had acquired as a package deal in 2005 for $420,000. The previous owner had inherited the properties but lacked the expertise and capital to maximize their potential. After renovations totaling $85,000, these properties generated a combined $95,000 annually, while appreciating to approximately $850,000 in total value. Each cottage featured rustic charm combined with modern amenities, stone fireplaces, updated kitchens, private docks, and scenic decks that provided perfect settings for family reunions and corporate retreats. The properties stayed booked at 85% occupancy rates year-round, demonstrating the income potential of well-managed lake vacation rentals. I also owned 3 beachfront condos in Gulf Shores, Alabama, purchased during the 2008 financial crisis, for a total of $290,000 and now worth approximately $680,000 while generating $85,000 in annual rental income. These properties represented my ability to identify opportunities during market downturns, acquiring quality assets at substantial discounts when other investors were retreating from the market. The Gulf Shores condos featured updated interiors, balconies overlooking the Gulf of Mexico, and access to resort amenities that provided excellent value for vacation rental guests. During peak summer months, these properties commanded $2,800 per week, while off-season rates of $1,200 per week ensured year-round income generation. 2 mountain cabins in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, acquired for $180,000 and now valued at $450,000, with $55,000 annual rental income, demonstrated my expertise in mountain vacation markets. These properties featured authentic log construction, hot tubs, fireplaces, and proximity to Great Smoky Mountains National Park that attracted families and couples seeking mountain retreat experiences. My most recent acquisitions were 4 coastal properties in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, purchased between 2018 and 2022 for a total of $1.1 million and currently generating $145,000 in combined annual rental income while appreciating rapidly in one of the Southeast's hottest vacation rental markets. These Outer Banks properties represented my continued ability to identify emerging vacation markets before they became oversaturated. Each property featured oceanfront or soundfront locations, private pools, and luxury amenities that positioned them in the premium segment of the Outer Banks rental market. Beyond rental income, my properties provided substantial tax advantages through depreciation, business expense deductions, and strategic refinancing that allowed me to access equity without selling assets. My vacation rental portfolio generated approximately $560,000 in annual net income while maintaining a total asset value of approximately $4.2 million. The real power in my portfolio wasn't just the income and appreciation, it was the liquidity and leverage it provided. My properties were owned through carefully structured LLCs that provided asset protection, tax optimization, and flexible financing options. I could access equity through lines of credit, refinance properties to fund new acquisitions, or liquidate specific assets quickly when opportunities arose. My personal residence was an $850,000 waterfront home on Wilmington Island near Savannah, Georgia, a beautifully renovated 1920s estate with 4 bedrooms, wraparound porches, and private dock access to the Wilmington River. The property featured original hardwood floors, period architectural details, and modern updates that provided comfortable year-round living with easy access to my property management operations. The house occupied 2 acres of mature landscaping with live oak trees, azalea gardens, and waterfront views that provided both privacy and natural beauty. The property had appreciated consistently during my 15 years of ownership, while serving as both my primary residence and occasional executive retreat for high-end clients. I also maintained a mountain retreat in Highlands, North Carolina, a $420,000 cabin with 3 bedrooms, stone fireplaces, and panoramic views of the Blue Ridge Mountains. This property served as both personal getaway and occasional vacation rental during peak fall foliage season, generating $15,000 annually while providing tax benefits and personal enjoyment. My investment portfolio beyond real estate was conservatively managed but substantial, worth approximately $1.3 million, and structured to provide steady income while preserving capital. The portfolio included dividend-paying real estate investment trusts, municipal bonds from stable southeastern municipalities, balanced mutual funds providing exposure to growth markets, and a small allocation to precious metals as inflation protection. The investment portfolio generated approximately $4,500 monthly in passive income without touching principal, providing comfortable living expenses while allowing continued reinvestment in real estate opportunities and business operations. Most importantly, my 32 years in vacation rental investing had taught me exactly how to identify, evaluate, and acquire properties quickly when motivated sellers needed to liquidate assets. I understood property valuation methods, market timing strategies, financing structures, and legal procedures that allowed me to move decisively when opportunities presented themselves. I knew how to structure offers that would be accepted in competitive markets, how to arrange financing that could close quickly, and how to navigate legal procedures that protected my interests while expediting transactions. I understood rental market dynamics, seasonal patterns, and guest preferences that determined which properties would generate optimal returns. Most crucially, I understood exactly how to use real estate ownership as both investment and leverage. I knew that property ownership provided control, that market knowledge provided advantages, and that financial resources could be deployed quickly when family members proved they couldn't be trusted to provide basic respect and care during medical recovery. What Michael and Jessica would eventually discover was that a woman who had spent 3 decades building a vacation rental empire wasn't someone whose generosity and family loyalty could be taken for granted, especially when they proved they couldn't provide. basic care and respect during medical recovery. Michael had always been what teachers diplomatically called academically capable but emotionally inconsistent. As a child, he was intelligent and charming when things were going his way, but struggled with empathy and follow-through when situations required sustained effort or consideration for others' needs. In elementary school, he excelled at activities that provided immediate gratification, sports, video games, social events, but would lose interest in responsibilities that required patience, practice, or helping family members. He was the kid who could master new skills quickly but wouldn't help with household chores, who could charm teachers and friends but would avoid family obligations that conflicted with his personal interests. His teachers often noted that Michael had tremendous potential but seemed to lack the emotional maturity and caring attitude that would serve him well in relationships. Michael is very bright and engaging, his fifth-grade teacher wrote in a parent conference report, but he appears to have difficulty understanding when other people need support or consideration. In middle school, this pattern intensified around family responsibilities and financial understanding. Michael would enthusiastically participate in activities that enhanced his social status or provided personal benefits, student government, sports teams, academic competitions, but would find excuses to avoid family commitments, household responsibilities, or situations that required him to prioritize others' needs over his own convenience. When I was working long hours to build coastal property ventures during Michael's middle school years, he was notably unhelpful with family responsibilities or emotional support, while other children his age were learning to contribute to family functioning through household chores, caring for pets, or helping with family business tasks. Michael was focused entirely on his social life and personal interests. Michael just has different priorities during his adolescent years. I would rationalize when he avoided family work projects or showed little interest in learning about our family business. He'll develop more responsibility and empathy as he matures and faces real challenges. In high school, Michael's pattern of selective caring became more pronounced around family relationships and financial responsibility. He would excel in academic areas and social activities that served his interests, but would consistently avoid family business involvement, elder care responsibilities, or situations that required sustained commitment to helping others. When my mother, Michael's grandmother, began experiencing health problems during his sophomore year, Michael was notably absent from family caregiving responsibilities and emotional support activities. He was always too busy with academic projects, athletic commitments, or social plans to spend time helping with her care or participating in family support efforts. Michael's just focused on his education and future right now, I would tell my mother when she asked why her grandson visited so rarely during her illness. High school is demanding, and he'll have more time for family when he graduates and gets established. But the pattern continued through his senior year and into college. Even after my mother's death during his freshman year at University of Florida, Michael's response was notably detached and practical rather than emotional or supportive. He was more concerned about how her funeral timing might affect his finals schedule than about providing comfort to family members or participating in memorial planning. Michael grieves differently than other people, I rationalized. Some people process loss privately rather than through family involvement. I funded Michael's education at University of Florida, $180,000 total for tuition, housing, and living expenses over 4 years. He graduated with a business degree and solid grades, but his college years were marked by the same pattern of prioritizing personal interests over family connections and responsibilities. During his college years, Michael's visits home became increasingly infrequent and brief. Even during semester breaks when he was supposedly home in Savannah, he would spend most of his time with friends, at social events, or pursuing personal interests rather than engaging with family or learning about the business that was funding his education. College is a crucial time for building independence and adult relationships, I would explain to relatives who questioned Michael's minimal family involvement. He'll have plenty of time to focus on family and business when he's established. Professionally. After graduation, Michael moved to Atlanta and built a successful career in pharmaceutical sales, earning approximately $95,000 annually, plus performance bonuses that brought his total compensation to around $125,000 in good years. He was skilled at his job and well regarded by clients and colleagues, but his professional success was built on charm and persistence rather than genuine concern for others' well-being. Michael's choice to move to Atlanta immediately after college, rather than staying closer to family or getting involved in our family business, was presented as a career opportunity rather than as distance-seeking behavior. Atlanta has excellent pharmaceutical industry opportunities, he would explain. This position will provide much better advancement potential than staying in Savannah. But the practical effect was that Michael established a lifestyle that was geographically and emotionally removed from family obligations and business responsibilities. He visited Savannah 3 or 4 times per year, usually during major holidays, but maintained minimal regular contact and showed little interest in my daily life or business operations. When Michael met Jessica at age 29, I was hopeful that marriage might encourage him to develop stronger family connections and greater willingness to provide support during difficult times. Jessica was 27, had graduated from Georgia State University with a marketing degree, and had been working for a luxury hotel chain for 5 years, managing guest experience programs. Jessica came from an upper-middle-class family in Buckhead, where financial success and social status were highly valued. Her father was a corporate attorney who had built wealth through smart investments and strategic career moves. Her mother was a former marketing executive who had focused on family and community involvement after marriage. Jessica had grown up, understanding that financial security and social connections were important foundations for a successful lifestyle. Jessica's professional background in hospitality marketing was particularly appealing to me as someone deeply involved in vacation, rental guest experience optimization. Having a daughter-in-law with expertise in guest services and marketing seemed like a tremendous opportunity for our family business, especially given my growing awareness that the vacation rental industry was becoming increasingly competitive and sophisticated. During their engagement, Jessica seemed to have a positive influence on Michael's attention to family relationships. She encouraged him to call more regularly, remember important occasions, and participate more actively in family gatherings. She also expressed genuine interest in learning about our family business and understanding the vacation rental industry. I think there could be great synergy between my marketing background and your property management expertise, she would tell me during family dinners. The vacation rental industry is evolving rapidly with online booking platforms and social media marketing, and there are probably opportunities to optimize guest experiences and booking strategies. I was impressed by Jessica's professional competence and business acumen, and hopeful that marriage would help Michael develop more consistent patterns of family engagement and business responsibility. I was also excited about the possibility of having someone with marketing expertise become involved in our family business operations. Jessica understands the hospitality industry from the guest perspective, I would tell my business partner when discussing potential family succession planning. She could bring valuable insights about guest experience optimization and modern marketing strategies that could enhance our property performance. I paid for their wedding, a $45,000 celebration at a luxury resort in Savannah that Jessica had selected for its elegance and photogenic qualities. The venue featured stunning gardens, historic architecture, and southern charm that created exactly the sophisticated atmosphere Jessica wanted for their special day. The reception included 150 guests from both families and their professional networks, a 5-course dinner prepared by award-winning chefs, premium open bar featuring craft cocktails and fine wines, live music from a jazz quartet, and floral arrangements that transformed the ballroom into something worthy of a lifestyle magazine feature. Jessica's dress was a designer gown from an exclusive Atlanta boutique, and Michael wore a custom tuxedo that made him look successful and distinguished. The photography captured beautiful moments of celebration, and I was moved by Jessica's apparent excitement about joining our family and building strong relationships. I was happy to fund their dream wedding because I could easily afford it, because I wanted to welcome Jessica into our family with generosity and celebration, and because I hoped this investment in their happiness would contribute to a strong marriage that would benefit both of them and strengthen our family business. Connections. When they started planning their post-wedding lifestyle, I provided the $60,000 down payment for their first house, a beautiful 4-bedroom colonial in an upscale Atlanta suburb with excellent schools and strong property values. The house featured hardwood floors, granite countertops, a gourmet kitchen, and a swimming pool that provided the kind of entertaining space they wanted for building their social and professional networks. The property was located in Buckhead, one of Atlanta's most prestigious neighborhoods, with tree-lined streets, upscale shopping, and proximity to major business districts that supported both their career development and social goals. The mortgage payments were manageable on their combined income of approximately $155,000, and the house provided space for the family they were planning and the entertaining lifestyle they enjoyed. My down payment gift had allowed them to purchase in a neighborhood that significantly enhanced their professional image and social connections, while building equity in one of Atlanta's most stable real estate markets. For the first few years of their marriage, this arrangement seemed beneficial for everyone involved. Michael was more attentive to family relationships with Jessica's encouragement and reminders. They sent thoughtful gifts for birthdays and holidays, attended family gatherings more consistently, and seemed genuinely interested in building stronger family connections. Jessica managed their household efficiently while maintaining her marketing career, and seemed to be building the successful lifestyle she had always envisioned. She expressed continued interest in learning about vacation rental operations and occasionally offered marketing insights that seemed thoughtful and potentially valuable. I enjoyed being a generous mother-in-law who could provide opportunities and financial security that enhanced their quality of life. The house down payment had given them access to a better neighborhood and stronger property investment than they could have achieved independently, and I was happy to contribute to their stability and success. Most importantly, I thought I was witnessing Michael's development into a more responsible and caring family member, guided by Jessica's professional competence and supported by the financial security my gifts had provided. I believed that our family relationships were strengthening and that I was building a foundation of mutual support that would benefit everyone as we grew older. What I was actually witnessing was the foundation being laid for a pattern of entitlement and exploitation that would eventually reveal their true priorities when supporting me became inconvenient rather than beneficial to their lifestyle and financial goals. When doctors discovered that my left hip joint had deteriorated beyond conservative treatment during a routine examination in January 2024, my first instinct was to handle everything independently, just as I had managed every other challenge in my life for the past 30 years. But at 73 years old, facing the reality of major surgery, extended recovery, and months of limited mobility, I realized this was different from any obstacle I had previously encountered. The orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Patricia Caldwell at Emory University Hospital in Atlanta, was direct but encouraging in explaining my diagnosis and treatment options. Eleanor, your hip joint shows severe arthritis with bone-on-bone contact that's causing your pain and mobility limitations. The good news is that hip replacement surgery has excellent success rates, especially for patients in good overall health like yourself. The challenging news is that recovery will require significant lifestyle adjustments and family support systems. What kind of lifestyle adjustments? I asked, immediately thinking about my property management responsibilities and business commitments. Hip replacement recovery involves 6 to 8 weeks of limited mobility, followed by several months of physical therapy. You'll need assistance with daily activities initially, help with transportation to medical appointments, and support during the periods when you're managing pain and building strength. The word support hung in the air as I considered my options. I had built my entire adult life around independence and self-reliance. The idea of needing help with basic activities was both frightening and unfamiliar. "Do you have family members who can assist with your recovery?" Dr. Caldwell asked gently. "I have a son in Atlanta," I replied. "He's married, and his wife has experience in hospitality management." "That's wonderful. Having family nearby can make a tremendous difference in recovery outcomes. Many patients find it helpful to stay with family temporarily during the most intensive recovery phases, especially if transportation to physical therapy appointments is challenging." That conversation planted the seed of what would become the most costly decision of my life, both financially and emotionally. Over the following weeks, as I researched recovery expectations and considered my support systems, the idea of temporarily staying with Michael and Jessica during my initial recovery began to seem increasingly practical. They lived in Atlanta, close to excellent medical facilities. Jessica's hospitality background suggested she would understand care and service requirements. And most importantly, I would have family nearby during what promised to be the most challenging period of my recovery. But there was another factor that made the arrangement seem appealing. Michael and Jessica had recently acquired a vacation rental property in Emerald Coast, Florida, that they had been developing as both a personal retreat and rental investment. The property was a stunning beachfront home with accessible features, guest accommodations, and proximity to excellent medical facilities in nearby Destin. "Mom, we've been thinking about your surgery and recovery," Michael said when I called to discuss my situation. "Jessica and I want to help however we can, and we have an idea that might work well for everyone." "What kind of idea?" I asked, curious about their proposal. "Well, you know we've been working on the Emerald Coast property," he explained. "It's fully accessible, has beautiful guest accommodations, and the beach environment would be perfect for recovery and physical therapy. What if you stayed there during your initial recovery period?" The suggestion seemed thoughtful and well considered. "That's generous of you to offer," I said. "But I wouldn't want to interfere with your rental bookings or personal use of the property." "Actually, it would work perfectly," Jessica added, having picked up the extension. "We're still in the development phase, so we don't have bookings scheduled for the next few months, and having you there would give us an opportunity to test the accessibility features and guest experience elements we've been implementing." The idea was appealing on multiple levels. The beachfront location would provide a peaceful environment for recovery. The property's accessibility features would accommodate my mobility limitations. And spending time with Michael and Jessica would give us opportunities to strengthen family relationships while they provided support during my recovery. The property has a first-floor master suite with roll-in shower, wide doorways for wheelchair or walker access, and outdoor spaces. That would be perfect for gentle exercise and physical therapy, Michael explained. "We've specifically designed it to accommodate guests with mobility needs. And the medical facilities in the area are excellent," Jessica added. "There are orthopedic specialists, physical therapy centers, and hospitals within easy driving distance. Plus, the beach environment is known to be beneficial for recovery and stress reduction." Over the following conversations, we developed a plan for my recovery period at their Emerald Coast property. I would have surgery in Atlanta, spend the initial week recovering at their home there, then relocate to Florida for the extended recovery period when travel became manageable. Michael and Jessica would help coordinate my medical care, provide transportation to appointments, and assist with daily activities during the periods when I needed support. "We're excited to help with your recovery," Jessica said during one of our planning conversations. "This is exactly the kind of situation where families should support each other, and we want to make sure you have everything you need to heal properly and get back to your active lifestyle." "And honestly, Mom," Michael added, "after everything you've done for our family over the years, this is our opportunity to give back and show how much we appreciate your support and generosity." Their enthusiasm and apparent commitment to supporting my recovery were reassuring, and seemed to confirm that I was making the right decision about accepting family help during my medical situation. I arranged for comprehensive medical care coordination between my Atlanta surgical team and Florida-based recovery specialists. Dr. Caldwell provided referrals to excellent orthopedic follow-up care in the Destin area and assured me that my recovery plan could be seamlessly continued there. "You're making a smart decision," she told me during our final pre-surgery consultation. "Having family support, especially in a peaceful environment like the beach, will contribute significantly to your recovery outcomes. Stress reduction and emotional support are important factors in healing and rehabilitation success." I also arranged for temporary management of my vacation rental portfolio through my business partner and assistant, allowing me to focus entirely on recovery without worrying about day-to-day operational responsibilities. My properties were well established with reliable management systems, so my absence wouldn't affect guest experiences or rental income. "Take all the time you need for recovery," my business partner assured me. "The properties are running smoothly, and we can handle everything until you're ready to resume full involvement." The hip replacement surgery in March 2024 went better than expected. Dr. Caldwell was pleased with the procedure outcome and optimistic about my recovery prospects. "The surgery was very successful," she explained during my hospital follow-up. "Your new hip joint is positioned perfectly, and your tissue response suggests you'll have an excellent recovery." "When can I begin the Florida portion of my recovery?" I asked, eager to move to the next phase of the plan. "You should be ready for travel in about 10 days, she replied. "The beach environment will be wonderful for your recovery, and having family support will make a significant difference in your healing process." The initial week of recovery at Michael and Jessica's Atlanta home seemed to confirm the wisdom of accepting family support during medical recovery. Jessica took time off from her job to help with my immediate post-surgery needs, and Michael rearranged his work schedule to provide transportation to medical appointments and assist with household tasks. "How are you feeling today, Mom?" Michael would ask each morning, checking on my comfort and mobility progress. "Is there anything specific you need? Medication management, meal preparation, or help with personal care?" Jessica would add, using her hospitality background to anticipate and address my recovery needs. During those first days, I felt grateful for their support and vindicated in my decision to accept family help during my medical crisis. The combination of Jessica's service orientation and Michael's practical assistance seemed to provide exactly the kind of support system that Dr. Caldwell had recommended. But what I didn't recognize at the time was that Michael and Jessica's initial enthusiasm for supporting my recovery was based on several assumptions about my situation that would prove to be both wrong and dangerous for our family relationships. Their first assumption was that my recovery would be relatively brief and minimally disruptive to their normal routines and personal plans. They expected that hip replacement recovery would involve a few weeks of occasional assistance, rather than the extended intensive support that major surgery actually requires for elderly patients. Their second assumption was that my presence in their vacation rental property would be temporary and wouldn't interfere with their long-term plans for the property's development and rental income generation. Their third assumption was that supporting my recovery would provide opportunities to demonstrate their care and responsibility, potentially leading to increased financial benefits and preferential treatment in my estate planning and business succession decisions. Most significantly, their fourth assumption was that my gratitude for their support would translate into substantial financial recognition, including potential gifts, business partnership opportunities, and favorable modifications to my will and property ownership arrangements. This last assumption would prove to be the most revealing about their true motivations for encouraging my relocation to their vacation rental property for recovery. When we arrived at the Emerald Coast property in late March 2024, I was initially impressed by the thoughtfulness of the accommodations and the apparent care they had taken in preparing for my recovery needs. The property was a stunning 3-story beachfront home with panoramic Gulf of Mexico views, accessible features throughout the main level, and outdoor spaces that provided perfect settings for gentle exercise and relaxation. "We've set up the master suite specifically for your recovery needs," Jessica explained as she showed me around the first floor. "The bedroom has an adjustable bed, the bathroom has safety features and a roll-in shower, and the sitting area provides space for physical therapy exercises and relaxation." The master suite was indeed comfortable and well-appointed, with direct access to a covered porch overlooking the beach, wide doorways that accommodated my walker, and thoughtful details like accessible light switches, grab bars, and a communication system that allowed me to contact them if I needed assistance. "The kitchen is fully stocked with recovery-friendly foods," Michael added, "and we've arranged for a meal delivery service that specializes in nutrition for healing and rehabilitation." The property featured an elevator to access upper levels when my mobility improved, but the main level provided everything I needed during the initial recovery phase: comfortable living spaces, accessible bathroom facilities, and easy access to outdoor areas for gentle exercise and fresh air. "This is beautiful," I told them as we settled into the living area overlooking the beach. "The environment will definitely be conducive to healing and recovery." "We're so happy you like it," Jessica replied. "We want this to be as comfortable and supportive as possible for your recovery process." My new orthopedic specialist in Destin, Dr. Michael Harrison, reviewed my surgical records and was pleased with my recovery progress. "Your Atlanta surgeon did excellent work," he assured me during my first Florida appointment. "The beach environment here will be wonderful for your rehabilitation, and the family support you have will contribute significantly to your recovery success." "What should I expect in terms of recovery timeline and physical therapy requirements?" I asked. "Hip replacement recovery typically involves 8 to 12 weeks of intensive rehabilitation, followed by several months of gradual return to normal activities," he explained. "You'll need physical therapy 3 times per week initially, plus daily exercise and mobility work. Having family support for transportation and encouragement will be crucial during this period." Michael and Jessica attended that first appointment with me, asking informed questions about my care requirements and expressing commitment to providing whatever support I needed during the recovery process. "How can we best assist with her rehabilitation?" Jessica asked, demonstrating the same service orientation that had characterized her professional hospitality work. "What warning signs should we watch for that might indicate complications or problems?" Michael added, taking notes on Dr. Harrison's responses. Their apparent dedication to understanding my recovery needs and providing appropriate support reinforced my confidence in the decision to accept their help during this medical challenge. The first few weeks of recovery at the Emerald Coast property seemed to confirm that family support was indeed valuable during major medical recovery. Jessica would drive me to physical therapy appointments, using her hospitality background to coordinate with medical staff and ensure that my transportation and care needs were met efficiently. Michael would help with daily activities that were challenging during early recovery: grocery shopping, meal preparation, household maintenance, and coordination with medical providers. He seemed genuinely committed to ensuring that I had everything needed for successful rehabilitation. "How are you feeling after today's physical therapy session?" Jessica would ask after each appointment, monitoring my progress and comfort level. "Is there anything we can adjust about your daily routine or environment to make recovery more comfortable?" Michael would add, showing attention to practical details that could affect my healing process. The beachfront environment was indeed beneficial for recovery. I could sit on the covered porch for fresh air and relaxation, take gentle walks on the sand as my mobility improved, and enjoy the peaceful atmosphere that reduced stress and promoted healing. During those early weeks, I felt grateful for their support and impressed by their apparent commitment to prioritizing my recovery needs over their personal convenience and social activities. The combination of Jessica's service expertise and Michael's practical assistance seemed to provide exactly the kind of comprehensive support that would ensure optimal recovery outcomes. But what I didn't understand at the time was that Michael and Jessica's initial commitment to supporting my recovery was based on expectations about our arrangement that were very different from my understanding of the situation. While I viewed their support as generous family assistance during a temporary medical challenge, they were viewing my recovery period as an opportunity to demonstrate their value as family members in ways that would lead to financial benefits and business opportunities. Their enthusiasm for supporting my recovery was genuine, but it was motivated by strategic considerations about inheritance, business succession, and financial gifts, rather than purely by concern for my health and well-being. 3 weeks into my recovery at the Emerald Coast property, I began to notice subtle changes in Michael and Jessica's approach to my care that suggested their initial enthusiasm was becoming tempered by other considerations and priorities. The first sign of shifting attitudes was their increasing attention to the financial aspects of my recovery and its impact on their vacation rental development plans. "Mom, we've been thinking about the timing of your recovery and how it affects our property development schedule," Michael mentioned during one of our evening conversations on the porch. "We had been planning to begin marketing the property for vacation rentals by summer season, but your recovery period is extending longer than we initially anticipated." "What do you mean?" I asked, confused by the suggestion that my recovery was affecting their timeline. "Well, summer is the peak rental season for beachfront properties," Jessica explained. "Each week we delay getting the property on the rental market represents significant lost income potential." When I pointed out that they had specifically offered the property for my recovery and assured me that the timing wouldn't conflict with their rental plans, their response revealed underlying assumptions about my recovery that I hadn't understood. "We expected that hip replacement recovery would be more like 6 weeks rather than the 12 to 16 weeks that your doctors are now suggesting," Michael said. "The extended timeline creates some challenges for our business planning that we hadn't anticipated. And honestly, Mom," Jessica added, "having someone in active medical recovery limits our ability to test the property's rental readiness and guest experience features. We can't really evaluate how the property works for vacation guests while it's functioning as a recovery facility." Their framing of my medical recovery as a limitation on their business development was surprising and concerning. I had understood that they were offering family support during my medical need, not that I was participating in a business arrangement with timing constraints and performance expectations. The second sign of changing priorities was their increasing focus on the costs associated with my recovery and their expectations for cost sharing or financial recognition. "We've been calculating the expenses related to supporting your recovery," Jessica mentioned during a conversation about household logistics. "The meal delivery service, transportation costs for medical appointments, utility increases for extended occupancy, and foregone rental income are adding up to more than we had budgeted for." "I hadn't realized you were tracking expenses related to my care," I said, surprised by their approach to managing family support costs. "We're not trying to be mercenary about it," Michael was quick to clarify. "We just want to make sure we understand the full financial impact so we can plan appropriately." "And honestly," Jessica added, "providing medical recovery support is more expensive and demanding than normal vacation rental hosting. We're essentially providing personalized care services rather than standard property rental." When I offered to reimburse them for specific expenses related to my care, their response revealed expectations about financial arrangements that went beyond simple cost recovery. "It's not just about direct expenses, Mom," Michael explained carefully. "It's about the opportunity costs and the additional responsibilities we've taken on. This level of care and support represents a significant commitment that affects our other business and personal activities. We're not asking for payment for family support," Jessica was careful to emphasize. "But this situation does represent an investment of time, resources, and foregone opportunities that we hope will be recognized and appreciated appropriately." The implication was clear. They expected that my gratitude for their recovery support would translate into financial benefits that compensated them for their costs and efforts. The third sign of shifting priorities was their growing interest in my business operations and estate planning decisions, presented as natural extensions of their caregiving responsibilities. Mom, we've been thinking about your property portfolio and business management while you're in recovery, Michael said during one of our weekly family dinners. Are you comfortable with your current management arrangements, or would you like us to become more involved in oversight and decision-making? What kind of involvement? I asked, though I was beginning to understand where this conversation was heading. Well, Jessica's marketing background could be really valuable for optimizing your vacation rental operations, he explained. And my sales experience could help with property acquisition analysis and guest relationship management. We're in a unique position to understand both your business model and your personal recovery needs, Jessica added. Having family members involved in business operations could provide better coordination and more personalized attention than working with outside management services. Their suggestions seemed reasonable on the surface, but they represented a significant expansion of their role from temporary recovery support to ongoing business involvement and decision-making authority. When I expressed appreciation for their suggestions, but indicated that I preferred to maintain my existing business management arrangements, their disappointment was obvious and concerning. Mom, we're just trying to help, Michael said with frustration that seemed disproportionate to my preference for maintaining business independence. We can't provide optimal support for your recovery if we don't have understanding and input regarding your business responsibilities. And honestly, Jessica added, it's difficult to coordinate your care and schedule when we don't have access to information about your property management activities and commitments. They were using my medical recovery as justification for expanded involvement in my business operations, rather than understanding that recovery support and business management were separate considerations. As my recovery progressed through April and into May 2024, the gap between my expectations for family support and Michael and Jessica's expectations for financial and business benefits became increasingly apparent and problematic. I was learning that medical recovery requires sustained patient-family support that prioritizes the patient's healing over other considerations, but Michael and Jessica were learning that caregiving was more demanding and less immediately rewarding than they had anticipated. More importantly, I was beginning to recognize that their enthusiasm for supporting my recovery had been based on assumptions about business opportunities and financial benefits, rather than purely on concern for my health and well-being. The beachfront environment was indeed wonderful for my recovery, and my physical therapy progress was exceeding expectations. But the family dynamics were becoming complicated by expectations and priorities that had nothing to do with medical support and everything to do with financial opportunity. Dr. Harrison was pleased with my recovery progress and optimistic about my return to full activity levels. Eleanor, you're healing beautifully, he told me during a May appointment. Your mobility is improving ahead of schedule, and you should be able to return to normal activities within the next few weeks. That's wonderful news, I replied, though I was beginning to have mixed feelings about the conclusion of my recovery period. The family support you've received has clearly contributed to your excellent outcomes, he added. Having people who prioritize your healing and provide consistent encouragement makes a significant difference in recovery success. But as my medical recovery neared completion, I was beginning to understand that Michael and Jessica's family support had been based on expectations and assumptions that were very different from genuine caregiving, and that the conclusion of my recovery period would not end their expectations for business involvement and financial benefits. In fact, their pressure for expanded business roles and financial recognition was about to intensify as they realized that my recovery success meant I would soon be independent enough to make my own decisions about business operations, living arrangements, and financial planning, decisions that might not align with their interests and expectations. The stage was being set for a confrontation that would reveal the true nature of their support and the real cost of mixing family relationships with business expectations during medical recovery. But first, They would need to demonstrate exactly how their concern for my well-being would fare when their personal convenience and social priorities conflicted with my remaining recovery needs. That demonstration was approaching faster than any of us realized, and it would involve a level of abandonment and selfishness that would forever change my understanding of their character and my decisions about who deserved to benefit from my business success and property portfolio. By June 2024, 3 months into my recovery at the Emerald Coast property, Michael and Jessica's approach to my care had evolved from enthusiastic family support to what I now recognize as systematic exploitation disguised as hospitality management. What had begun as genuine offers to help during my medical recovery had transformed into calculated strategies to maximize their personal benefits while minimizing their actual caregiving responsibilities. The transformation was gradual enough that I initially attributed their changing behavior to caregiver fatigue, rather than recognizing it as the deliberate manipulation that it actually was. The first major escalation in their expectations occurred when Jessica approached me with what she called family business optimization during recovery transition. Eleanor, Michael, and I have been researching how families typically handle business collaboration during medical recovery periods, Jessica began during one of our morning conversations on the beach-facing porch. We've discovered that there are strategies that can benefit everyone while ensuring that business operations don't suffer during extended recovery situations. She had prepared materials, printed articles about family business succession planning, information about hospitality industry partnerships, and documentation about vacation rental management optimization that seemed professionally researched and thoughtfully considered. What we've learned, Michael added, joining the conversation with a folder of business proposals, is that when someone is dealing with extended medical recovery, it often makes sense to integrate family members into business operations who can provide both personal support and professional expertise. The conversation was carefully framed as being for my benefit, designed to reduce my stress and ensure optimal management of my properties during recovery. But buried in their proposals were several arrangements that would have transferred significant control over my business operations to their management and oversight. For instance, Jessica continued, we could establish a formal partnership arrangement for the Emerald Coast property that would allow us to handle bookings, guest services, and property maintenance while you focus on healing and recovery. And we could extend our involvement to your other properties, Michael added, providing marketing optimization, guest experience enhancement, and operational efficiency improvements that would increase rental income while reducing your management responsibilities. We're also thinking it might be wise to establish business power of attorney arrangements that would allow us to make operational decisions if you're ever incapacitated by medical treatments or recovery complications, Jessica suggested. The proposals seemed reasonable on the surface and were presented as temporary assistance during my medical situation, but they would have given Michael and Jessica control over my property bookings, access to my business bank accounts, and legal authority to make operational decisions that could affect my rental income and property management. We're not asking for permanent business changes, Michael was careful to emphasize. We're just suggesting temporary arrangements that would help us support your recovery more effectively while ensuring that your business operations continue to thrive. And honestly, Eleanor, Jessica added, having medical recovery really highlights how important it is to have proper business succession and partnership safeguards in place. These arrangements would protect you and give us the tools we need to support both your health and your business success. When I expressed hesitation about transferring business control during my recovery, their response revealed underlying assumptions about my decision-making capacity during medical treatment. Eleanor, extended medical recovery can be incredibly stressful and can affect cognitive function temporarily, Jessica said with false professional authority. Many business owners find it helpful to have family members handle operational responsibilities so they can focus entirely on healing and rehabilitation. And Mom, you're dealing with pain medications and physical therapy fatigue that can cause confusion and memory problems, Michael added. It would be much safer to have backup business management systems in place rather than trying to handle everything yourself when you're not at full capacity. They were using my medical recovery to suggest that I was becoming incapable of managing my own business affairs, rather than understanding that recovery patients remain competent adults who retain the right to control their own business and financial decisions. When I declined to implement their business partnership proposals, explaining that I preferred to maintain control over my operations and decisions, their disappointment was obvious and concerning. "Mom, we're just trying to help optimize your business performance," Michael said with frustration that seemed disproportionate to my refusal of assistance I hadn't requested. "We can't provide proper support if you won't let us access the tools and information we need to enhance your operations." "And honestly, Eleanor," Jessica added, "it's going to be very difficult for us to continue providing recovery support if we don't have the authority to handle business emergencies or make decisions when you're not able to do so yourself." The implied threat was clear. Their continued support for my recovery was conditional on my willingness to transfer business control to them. As my resistance to their business control proposals became apparent, Michael and Jessica shifted their strategy to what they called fair cost-sharing arrangements for extended family recovery support. "Mom, we need to have an honest conversation about the financial impact of your extended recovery on our business and personal finances," Michael began during a family meeting that felt more like a business negotiation than a medical support discussion. "We've calculated the costs associated with supporting your recovery," Jessica added, presenting a detailed spreadsheet that itemized expenses I had never agreed to or anticipated. The foregone rental income, increased utility costs, meal services, transportation expenses, and opportunity costs are significantly impacting our financial planning. I was paying $2,500 monthly for the privilege of staying in their vacation rental during recovery. I was arranging my own transportation to most medical appointments. I was managing my own daily activities with minimal family support. I was seeking my own social connections and emotional support systems. But most troubling was their escalating pressure for involvement in my business operations and estate planning decisions, which they presented as natural extensions of their caregiving support. "Mom, we've been thinking about your business portfolio and our potential partnership opportunities," Michael mentioned during one of our monthly family financial discussions. "Given that we're providing your primary support during this extended recovery period, it might be appropriate to formalize our business relationship." "What do you mean?" I asked, though I was beginning to understand where this conversation was heading. "Well, we're the ones who would be responsible for handling your business affairs if something happened during your recovery," Jessica explained. "It would make sense for your business partnerships and succession planning to reflect our current support relationship and responsibilities." "And honestly, Mom," Michael added, "supporting someone through extended medical recovery really demonstrates family commitment and business competence. That level of care and responsibility should probably be recognized in your business planning and partnership decisions." They were suggesting that their paid caregiving services should be rewarded with business partnership opportunities and estate planning benefits, essentially converting their commercial support into leverage for business ownership. When I didn't immediately respond to their suggestions about business partnerships, they escalated their pressure by introducing urgency and medical vulnerability into the conversation. "Eleanor, having extended medical recovery really highlights how important it is to have your business affairs properly structured," Jessica said with manufactured concern. "Recovery can be unpredictable, and you want to make sure your business operations would continue smoothly if something unexpected happened. And Mom, if something happened during your recovery, you'd want to know that the people who had been supporting your care would be protected and able to continue managing your business operations," Michael added. "That's just responsible business planning during medical situations." "We're not asking for anything unreasonable," Jessica continued. "We're just suggesting that your business partnerships should reflect the reality of who's actually providing your support and would be responsible for your business operations during continued recovery or medical emergencies. They were using my medical recovery and ongoing rehabilitation to pressure me into modifying my business partnerships in their favor, while framing their request as responsible planning rather than as exploitation of my medical situation. The why. Most manipulative aspect of their business pressure campaign was the way they connected their caregiving support to my business decisions, implying that continued care was conditional on favorable business treatment. We want to continue providing the best possible support during your recovery, Michael said carefully during one of these conversations. But it's been challenging to maintain this level of care without knowing that our commitment and sacrifice is appreciated and recognized in your business planning. And honestly, Eleanor, Jessica added, it's emotionally difficult to provide intensive caregiving when you feel like your efforts aren't valued or acknowledged. Having security about our business future would make it easier for us to focus on supporting your recovery and transition back to normal activities. They were threatening to reduce their already minimal caregiving support if I didn't agree to modify my business partnerships in their favor, using my medical vulnerability and dependence on their assistance as leverage for business benefits. When I expressed concern about their approach to connecting caregiving support with business partnership expectations, their response revealed the transactional nature of their relationship with me during my recovery. "Mom, we're not being transactional," Michael protested. "We're just being realistic about the fact that providing extended recovery care requires major sacrifices and commitments from family members, and people who make those kinds of sacrifices should have some security about their business future," Jessica added. "That's not unreasonable or selfish. That's just practical family business planning. We've given up rental income opportunities, business development time, and personal activities to provide your care," Michael continued. "The least you could do is ensure that our business future is protected through your partnership planning." They were framing their minimal, paid caregiving as major sacrifices that entitled them to business partnership benefits, while ignoring the fact that I was paying them for services that families typically provide freely during medical crises. As the summer progressed into August 2024, Michael and Jessica's pressure for business partnership changes intensified, and they began introducing additional financial demands that revealed the full extent of their exploitation of my recovery situation. "Mom, we've been thinking about our long-term financial planning," Michael mentioned during a conversation about my recovery progress. "Given everything we've done to support your recovery, we were hoping you might consider more substantial financial recognition that would help with some of our major business and lifestyle goals." "What kind of financial recognition?" I asked, though I was beginning to dread the answer. "Well, we've been wanting to expand our vacation rental portfolio," Jessica explained. "The support we've provided during your recovery has delayed our own business development, but it's also given us valuable experience in extended stay property management. And we've been thinking about starting a family," Michael added. "But the financial responsibilities of supporting your recovery have made it difficult to save for the additional expenses that come with having children." They were suggesting that my financial recognition should include funding for their business expansion and family planning, presenting these requests as consequences of their caregiving sacrifice rather than as separate personal financial goals. "We're not asking for anything unreasonable," Jessica assured me. "Just some recognition of the opportunity costs and business development delays that we've experienced because of the time and resources we've devoted to supporting your recovery. And honestly, Mom," Michael added, "helping us achieve these goals would actually benefit you too. A larger vacation rental portfolio would provide better opportunities for family business collaboration, and having grandchildren would give you family connections and purpose during your continued recovery." And aging? They were framing their requests for business funding and family planning support as being beneficial for my future care needs and emotional well-being, rather than acknowledging that they were using my medical recovery to accelerate their access to my wealth. The financial recognition conversation revealed the full scope of their expectations and the extent to which they viewed my recovery as an opportunity to extract maximum financial benefits while providing minimal actual support. By September 2024, 6 months into my recovery, I was paying Michael and Jessica $2,500 monthly for housing during rehabilitation, arranging most of my own medical transportation, managing my own daily activities, seeking my own social support, and being pressured to modify my business partnerships and provide substantial financial gifts in recognition of their caregiving sacrifice. The contrast between their limited support and their extensive financial expectations was becoming impossible to ignore, and I was beginning to understand that my medical recovery had been viewed as an opportunity for financial gain rather than as a family member's medical crisis requiring support. But I was also beginning to realize that my recovery was actually progressing excellently, that my prognosis was outstanding, and that I would soon be healthy enough to make independent decisions about my living situation and business relationships without the vulnerability created by my medical needs. Michael and Jessica, however, were operating under the assumption that my gratitude for their minimal support and my medical dependence would continue indefinitely, providing them with ongoing leverage for financial benefits and business partnership modifications. They were about to discover that recovery patients who regain their health also recover their power to make independent decisions about how they're treated by family members and who benefits from their business success and financial resources. The confrontation that would change everything was just 1 month away, and it would involve a level of abandonment during the final stages of medical recovery that would forever alter my understanding of their character and my decisions about their future business security. The conversation that would shatter my tolerance forever and reveal the true depths of Michael and Jessica's selfishness happened on a Thursday afternoon in October 2024, nearly 7 months into my recovery at their Emerald Coast property. The Florida Gulf Coast was experiencing an unusual heat wave for fall, with temperatures reaching 95 degrees and humidity levels that made even short walks on the beach uncomfortable for someone still building stamina after major surgery. I had just completed what would turn out to be my final physical therapy session, a milestone that should have been celebrated as a family victory over medical adversity. Instead, it became the setting for the most devastating betrayal I had ever experienced from people who claimed to love me. The day had started with what seemed like normal family dynamics around my medical care. Michael had agreed to drive me to my 11 a.m. physical therapy appointment at Gulf Coast Rehabilitation Center, and Jessica had promised to pick me up afterward so we could stop at the local farmer's market for fresh ingredients for dinner. "Mom, I'll drop you off at physical therapy, and Jessica will pick you up when your session is finished," Michael had said that morning over breakfast. "Then we'll all go to the farmer's market together, and maybe take a walk on the beach if you're feeling up to it." The plan seemed straightforward and consistent with the minimal level of support they had been providing throughout my recovery. What I didn't realize was that this ordinary Thursday would become the day when their mask of family caring would slip completely, revealing the calculation and cruelty that had been driving their behavior for months. The physical therapy session itself went exceptionally well. My therapist, Maria Santos, was thrilled with my progress and recovery prospects. "Eleanor, this is your final session," she announced with genuine satisfaction. "Your mobility has returned to normal ranges, your strength has exceeded our expectations, and you've regained full independence in all daily activities." "What happens next?" I asked, feeling a mixture of relief and anticipation about moving beyond the intensive recovery phase. "You're essentially back to normal function," she explained. "You should continue with your daily walks and light exercise, but you no longer need formal physical therapy. You can return to all your normal activities, including travel, business, operations, and independent living." The news that my intensive recovery was ending should have been cause for family celebration. Instead, it would prove to be the catalyst for Michael and Jessica's most selfish and revealing behavior yet. When Jessica arrived to pick me up from the rehabilitation center that afternoon, Her mood seemed strangely subdued rather than celebratory, despite the excellent news about my recovery completion. "That's wonderful news about finishing physical therapy, Eleanor," she said with what sounded like forced enthusiasm. "I'm sure you're relieved to be done with the intensive treatment phase." "I am," I replied, though I was puzzled by her lukewarm response to what should have been wonderful news for our entire family. "Maria says I can start thinking about returning to my normal activities, and maybe even traveling back to Savannah in a few weeks." Jessica's reaction to my mention of returning home was swift and concerning. "Let's not make any hasty decisions about your living situation," she said quickly. "You might need continued support during the transition back to independent living, and it would be premature to think about major changes right now." Her response revealed that my potential return to independence was not something she welcomed, despite the successful completion of my medical recovery. When we arrived at the farmers market in downtown Emerald Coast, the dynamic between Jessica and me seemed tense and conspiratorial in ways that I couldn't initially understand. "How long will the market visit take?" Jessica asked the parking attendant with unusual impatience. "The market is open until 4 p.m., so you have about 2 hours," the attendant replied. "Most people spend 45 minutes to an hour browsing all the vendors." "An hour?" Jessica said with obvious frustration. "We weren't expecting it to take that long." I was surprised by her reaction, since farmers market visits were a normal part of our weekly routine that we had done dozens of times over the past 7 months. "I can browse independently," I said, recognizing that my improved mobility made me capable of handling the market visit on my own. "You don't need to stay with me if you have other commitments." That's when Jessica made a decision that I would later recognize as the moment she chose her personal convenience over my well-being and safety. "Actually, Eleanor," Jessica said carefully, "Michael and I just remembered that we have an important appointment this afternoon that we can't reschedule." "What kind of appointment?" I asked, confused since they hadn't mentioned any plans that conflicted with our farmers market visit. "It's a meeting with a potential investor for our vacation rental expansion," she explained quickly. "We've been trying to schedule this meeting for weeks, and the investor finally confirmed availability for this afternoon." "Can't you reschedule the investor meeting?" I asked. "This is my final physical therapy celebration, and I was looking forward to spending it together as a family. The investor is only available today," Michael said, appearing suddenly beside us with what I now recognize as a fabricated urgency. "And honestly, Mom, this meeting could be really important for our business future. It's the expansion opportunity we've been working toward for months. You can just browse the market on your own and call an Uber back to the house," Jessica added dismissively. "You don't really need us for shopping, especially now that you're fully recovered." I was stunned by their suggestion that I should manage the farmers market visit and transportation home independently on what should have been a day of family celebration for my recovery completion. "Jessica, I can handle the market, but the house is 3 miles away and Uber service is limited in this area," I reminded her. "And it's 95 degrees with high humidity, not ideal conditions for someone who just finished 7 months of medical recovery." "But you're fully recovered now," Michael said with what I now recognize as deliberate dismissiveness. "Maria just confirmed that you're back to normal function. You're strong enough to handle a little heat and a short transportation challenge." "And honestly, Mom," Jessica added, "this investor meeting could determine our entire financial future. We've been supporting your recovery for 7 months, delaying our own business development. We can't pass up this opportunity when it finally becomes available." The callousness of their reasoning was breathtaking. They were prioritizing a business meeting for a venture they wanted me to fund over supporting me during the celebration of my medical recovery completion. "I understand the meeting is important," I said, trying to remain calm. "But could one of you stay with me while the other meets with the investor? Or could we reschedule our market visit to accommodate both priorities?" Their response revealed the depth of their selfishness and the extent to which they had come to view my needs as inconvenient obligations rather than family priorities. "Eleanor, we both need to attend the investor meeting," Jessica said with artificial patience. "This is a major business decision that affects our entire future, and we can't make it based on only one person's assessment." "And Mom," Michael added, "you're going to be fine managing a simple market visit and transportation home. The farmer's market is safe, you have your cell phone, and you're in better physical condition than most people your age." "We'll be back in 2 hours," Jessica assured me, though her tone suggested this was a final decision rather than a plan open to discussion. "Just enjoy browsing the market and call for a ride when you're ready to head home." Before I could protest further or negotiate an alternative arrangement, they were walking toward their car, leaving me alone at the farmer's market entrance in 95-degree heat after what should have been a celebration of my medical recovery. "We'll see you back at the house later," Michael called over his shoulder as they disappeared into their vehicle. I stood in that farmer's market parking lot, weak from months of recovery and abandoned by the people who had been charging me $2,500 monthly for family support, watching through the heat shimmer as they drove away to pursue their own priorities. The 2 hours I spent at that farmer's market became the most clarifying period of my entire recovery experience. Walking slowly through the vendor stalls in oppressive heat, surrounded by families enjoying their afternoon together, I had time to reflect on 7 months of systematic exploitation disguised as family caregiving. Michael and Jessica had just demonstrated that even on the day of my recovery completion, a milestone that should have been celebrated as a family triumph, their personal business interests took priority over my well-being and celebration. But more importantly, their abandonment at the farmer's market crystallized a pattern of behavior that I had been rationalizing and excusing for months. "Mom, I'm really disappointed that you don't seem to understand how important this wedding is to Tyler and me," Rebecca said during our next conversation about wedding funding, her tone shifting to something colder and more manipulative than I had ever heard from her before. "I thought family was supposed to support each other during major life events." "Rebecca, family is supposed to support each other during medical emergencies too," I replied, shocked by her attempt to reframe my cancer treatment as less important than her wedding celebration. "I'm still in active cancer treatment, and protecting my medical resources should be the priority right now." "But you're doing so well with treatment," she argued with confidence that seemed inappropriate given the ongoing nature of cancer care. "Dr. Rodriguez said the tumors are shrinking, so using some of your medical fund for my wedding wouldn't affect your treatment at all." This casual dismissal of my ongoing medical needs revealed a fundamental shift in Rebecca's understanding of our relationship priorities that concerned me far more than her specific financial request. She was treating my cancer diagnosis as a resolved issue rather than understanding it as an ongoing medical emergency that required continued financial protection and family support. Over the following weeks, Rebecca's pressure tactics escalated through a combination of emotional manipulation, guilt-based arguments, and threats to withdraw her support for my medical care if I didn't provide wedding funding that she increasingly presented as something I owed her rather than understanding, as a generous gift that required appreciation and appropriate timing. "Mom, Tyler's parents are contributing $15,000 to our wedding," she announced during one of our May conversations, presenting this information as evidence that I was being unfairly ungenerous with my own financial support. "They think it's important to help their children start marriage with a beautiful celebration and financial stability." "That's very generous of Tyler's parents," I replied diplomatically. "But every family's financial situation and priorities are different, especially when someone is dealing with medical expenses and treatment costs." "Tyler's parents aren't wealthy like you are," Rebecca continued with growing resentment in her voice. "They're making sacrifices to support our wedding because they understand that family celebrations matter and that investment in their children's happiness is important." The implication that I was being selfish or unsupportive by protecting my medical emergency fund during cancer treatment revealed Rebecca's complete failure to understand the difference between discretionary family generosity and protecting resources designated for life-saving medical care. "Rebecca, I'm not opposed to contributing to your wedding," I explained patiently. But the timing of this request, while I'm still in active cancer treatment, requires careful consideration of medical priorities and financial protection during ongoing health crises. How long am I supposed to wait? She asked with frustration. That suggested my cancer treatment was an inconvenient delay to her wedding funding expectations rather than a genuine medical emergency requiring family support and understanding. You keep saying you need to protect your medical fund, but you're not even using most of that money for treatment. This comment revealed that Rebecca had been monitoring my medical expenses and calculating how much of my emergency fund remained available for her personal use, rather than understanding that medical emergency funds should remain completely protected until cancer treatment and recovery were entirely complete. Rebecca, medical emergency funds aren't designed to be spent as quickly as possible, I explained, amazed that I was having to teach these basic financial principles to someone who had received decades of financial education. They're designed to provide security and protection throughout the entire medical crisis and recovery period. But Mom, you're being overly cautious about money you're probably never going to need, she argued with confidence about my medical future that seemed both inappropriate and concerning. Using $25,000 for my wedding would still leave you with $50,000 for any medical expenses that might come up. The casual way Rebecca discussed calculating my remaining medical fund balance after her wedding expenses revealed that she had fundamentally reconceptualized my cancer emergency fund as family money that she had legitimate claims to access based on her personal financial needs and lifestyle goals. By June 2024, Rebecca's pressure campaign had escalated to include Tyler's direct involvement in requesting wedding funding and threats that my refusal to provide financial support would damage our family relationships and limit their future availability for all. Medical assistance and care. Mrs. Chen, Rebecca and I have been talking about wedding planning and family financial support, Tyler said during one of their visits to discuss wedding arrangements. We understand that you're dealing with medical expenses, but we're hoping you might reconsider helping with our wedding costs. Tyler, I appreciate your understanding about my medical situation, I replied carefully. But my cancer treatment is still ongoing, and protecting medical resources remains my priority until treatment and recovery are complete. But you've already spent months in treatment, and Rebecca says the doctors are really optimistic about your prognosis. Tyler continued with apparent confidence about medical predictions that seemed inappropriate from someone with no healthcare expertise. It seems like the worst is over, and now it's time to start thinking about family celebrations and future planning. The suggestion that my cancer treatment was essentially over, and that I should now focus on funding their lifestyle goals, revealed Tyler's complete misunderstanding of cancer treatment realities and his willingness to minimize my medical situation for his personal financial benefit. Tyler, cancer treatment typically continues for 12 to 18 months, followed by years of monitoring and follow-up care, I explained. I'm nowhere near the end of my treatment timeline, and medical emergency funds need to remain protected throughout the entire process. We understand that, Rebecca interjected with growing impatience, but we're not asking you to spend money you need for medical care. We're asking for a wedding gift that any loving mother would want to provide. For her daughter's special day? The attempt to frame my medical fund protection as a failure of maternal love revealed the extent to which Rebecca had reframed this situation to justify accessing my medical resources for her personal celebration expenses. During July 2024, as my surgery date approached and wedding planning intensified, Rebecca's behavior shifted to include subtle threats about her availability for medical support if I continued refusing to provide wedding funding. Mom, Tyler and I have been offered an opportunity to spend a long weekend in Lake Tahoe with his co-workers right around your surgery date, Rebecca mentioned casually during one of our treatment day conversations. We're trying to decide whether to go, but it would mean I might not be available to help with your surgery and recovery. The timing of this announcement, just weeks before my scheduled cancer surgery, was clearly designed to pressure me into providing wedding funding by threatening to withdraw medical support during one of the most critical periods of my treatment. Rebecca, are you seriously considering going on vacation during my cancer surgery? I asked, hardly able to believe that someone I had raised would use my medical vulnerability as leverage for wedding funding. It's not really a vacation, she replied defensively. It's a professional networking opportunity for Tyler that could be important for his career development. We're just trying to balance all our commitments and responsibilities. Your mother's cancer surgery should take priority over your boyfriend's networking opportunities, I said firmly, shocked that this even needed to be stated explicitly. Of course your surgery is important, Rebecca agreed with false sincerity. But we also have to think about our future and our career development. If you were able to help with wedding expenses, we'd have more financial security and wouldn't feel pressured to take advantage of every professional opportunity. The implication that providing wedding funding would somehow ensure her availability for medical support revealed the extent to which Rebecca was willing to exploit my medical vulnerability for financial manipulation. By August 2024, Rebecca's behavior had deteriorated to the point where most of our conversations involved either direct financial pressure about wedding expenses or subtle threats about reduced medical support if I didn't provide the funding she believed she deserved. Mom, Tyler, and I have been talking about our wedding timeline and financial planning, she announced during one of our increasingly tense conversations. We've decided that if we can't get family support for our wedding expenses, we might need to postpone the wedding until we can save enough money ourselves. That sounds like responsible financial planning, I replied, though I suspected this was another manipulation tactic designed to make me feel guilty about their wedding delays, rather than a genuine commitment to financial responsibility. Though I suspected this was another manipulation tactic designed to make me feel guilty about their wedding delays, rather than a genuine commitment to financial responsibility. Though I suspect perfect. Michael and Jessica had been so focused on extracting money from my recovery that they hadn't mentioned their own financial difficulties or the extent to which their business dreams were built on borrowed money and unrealistic projections. 3 days later, when Michael and Jessica had finalized their investor presentation and were ready to request my financial participation in their expansion plans, I decided it was time to inform them about the consequences of their farmers market abandonment. I need to have a conversation with both of you about some financial decisions I've made recently, I announced during one of our weekly family dinners on the porch. What kind of financial decisions? Jessica asked with the kind of immediate attention that financial topics always generated from them. I've made an offer to purchase a vacation rental property, I said calmly. That's exciting, Michael said, clearly hoping this conversation would involve partnership opportunities or investment advice requests. Where's the property located? Here in Emerald Coast, I replied matter-of-factly. I've offered $1.6 million cash for the beachfront property at 1247 Gulf Shore Drive. The silence that followed was profound as they processed what I had just told them. You made an offer on our property? Jessica asked with shock and disbelief. Yes, I've offered $1.6 million cash with a 7-day closing period. Mom, why would you do that? Michael asked with panic beginning to creep into his voice. Because you abandoned me at a farmer's market in 95-degree heat, on the day I completed my medical recovery to pursue a business meeting for expansion plans you expected me to fund, I replied. And because 7 months of recovery support revealed that your care for me was conditional, minimal, and primarily motivated by financial expectations rather than genuine family concern. But Eleanor, we were trying to build a business that would benefit our entire family, Jessica protested. No, you weren't, I corrected. You were trying to build a business that would benefit yourselves, using my medical vulnerability as leverage for financial support and my recovery period as an opportunity to extract maximum benefit while providing minimal care. That's not fair, Michael said desperately. We've been taking care of you throughout your entire recovery. No, you haven't, I replied firmly. You've been charging me $2,500 monthly for housing while providing minimal actual care. You've been pressuring me to involve you in my business operations. You've been requesting substantial financial recognition for your caregiving sacrifice. And when I needed family support during my recovery celebration, you abandoned me to pursue your own financial interests. That was just one afternoon, Jessica said with increasing desperation. You can't judge our entire 7 months of support based on one scheduling conflict. It wasn't a scheduling conflict, I replied calmly. It was a demonstration of your true priorities. When your personal business interests conflicted with my needs during a medical celebration, you chose your interests without hesitation or remorse. And it wasn't one isolated incident, I continued. It was the culmination of 7 months of systematic exploitation disguised as family caregiving. Michael's response revealed the extent to which they had been counting on my property and their expansion plans for their financial future. Mom, you can't just buy our property out from under us, he said with increasing panic. We've built our entire future planning around this property and the rental income it provides. That was your mistake, I replied. Property ownership and business success are not entitlements that family members can assume or demand. They're achievements that are earned through competence, integrity, and genuine care for others. But we love you, Jessica pleaded. We've been trying to support your recovery while managing our own financial pressures and business responsibilities. Jessica, love isn't demonstrated through paid caregiving services, business partnership pressure, and abandonment during medical celebrations, I said calmly. Love is demonstrated through prioritizing someone's well-being over your own convenience, providing support without conditions or expectations, and being present during their most important moments. You've proven that your relationship with me is transactional rather than loving. You've shown that you view my medical needs as inconvenient obligations and my financial resources as assets you're entitled to access. The conversation continued for over 2 hours, with Michael and Jessica alternating between denial, anger, bargaining, and desperation, as they realized the full extent of what they would lose through their exploitation and abandonment. Mom, please, reconsider this property purchase, Michael begged. We're willing to apologize for any mistakes we made and provide better support going forward. The time for providing better support was during my recovery, I replied. You had 7 months to demonstrate genuine care and family commitment. Instead, you demonstrated selfishness, exploitation, and abandonment. But Eleanor, buying our property seems like an extreme overreaction, Jessica argued. Surely we can work out some kind of arrangement that recognizes both our mistakes and our genuine efforts to help. There is no arrangement, I said firmly. You've shown me who you really are when someone you claim to love needs support during a medical crisis. My business decisions now reflect that reality. Over the following week, Michael and Jessica made numerous attempts to convince me to withdraw my property offer, using every manipulation tactic they had employed during my recovery. They tried. Guilt. Mom, we're your only family. How can you take away our home and business? They tried bargaining. What if we provide full reimbursement for your recovery expenses and give you a partnership in our expansion plans? They tried emotional manipulation. You're destroying our dreams and our financial future over one misunderstanding. They tried financial pressure. Without this property, we can't afford to maintain our lifestyle or build the family we've been planning. But I had learned during my recovery that manipulation tactics only work when the target feels vulnerable, dependent, or guilty. I no longer felt any of those things. My recovery had been completely successful. My health had returned to full function. I was no longer dependent on their minimal and conditional support, and I felt no guilt about protecting my resources and dignity from people who had proven they would exploit medical vulnerability for personal gain. "My property purchase offer is final," I told them during our last conversation about the acquisition. "It reflects the market value of your property and will solve your debt problems while allowing you to start fresh, without the financial pressures that contributed to your poor treatment of family members." 7 days after making my offer, I became the owner of the Emerald Coast beachfront property, where I had spent 7 months recovering from hip surgery while being systematically exploited by family members who viewed my medical crisis as a business opportunity. Michael and Jessica's attempts to maintain contact gradually decreased as they realized that my property acquisition was permanent and that I was no longer a source of financial support or business partnership opportunities. My recovery had ended successfully, with complete restoration of mobility and function. But more importantly, the recovery experience had taught me invaluable lessons about family relationships, financial boundaries, and the difference between genuine care and exploitative manipulation. The vacation rental property became a flagship asset in my portfolio, generating $285,000 annually in rental income while appreciating rapidly in one of Florida's most desirable beachfront markets. My property management team transformed it into a luxury retreat that consistently commanded premium rates and maintained 95% occupancy throughout the year. 6 months after the property acquisition, I learned through mutual acquaintances that Michael and Jessica's marriage was experiencing significant stress as they blamed each other for the decisions that had cost them their vacation rental property and rental income. I heard from Jennifer Martinez that Michael and Jessica are having serious financial problems, my friend Susan mentioned during one of our monthly phone calls. Apparently, they're arguing constantly about money and about whose fault it was that you bought their property. "That's unfortunate," I replied, though I felt no responsibility for the consequences of their choices. Financial stress often reveals underlying character issues that were previously hidden or managed. Jennifer said Jessica blames Michael for being too aggressive about asking for business partnerships, and Michael blames Jessica for not providing better recovery care that would have kept you grateful and generous. The fact that they were blaming each other rather than taking responsibility for their joint exploitation revealed that neither of them understood the fundamental problem with their approach to my recovery. They were still focused on strategy and tactics rather than recognizing that their entire mindset had been selfish and manipulative. 2 years have passed since that scorching October afternoon when Michael and Jessica abandoned me at the farmer's market, and the ripple effects of their decision continue to provide both satisfaction and valuable life lessons that I want to share with everyone watching this story. The most immediate consequence was watching Michael and Jessica's carefully constructed lifestyle crumble when they realized the full extent of what their farmer's market abandonment had cost them. The vacation rental property they had been so eager to expand, the one they prioritized over my recovery celebration, remained permanently out of reach once they understood that my $1.6 million cash purchase was non-negotiable. "Eleanor, we need to talk about our living situation," Michael called me 6 weeks after the property sale closed, his voice carrying a desperation I had never heard before. "We're having trouble finding alternative housing that we can afford without the rental income from the Emerald Coast property. I'm sure you'll figure out a solution that fits your actual budget," I replied calmly. "Many families find happiness in homes that match their real financial capabilities." "But we built our entire financial planning around that property," Jessica added, having picked up the extension phone. "Without the rental income, we can't maintain our current lifestyle or pursue the business expansion we had planned." The irony was perfect. The rental income they had lost by abandoning me was exactly what they had been counting on to fund the expansion plans they had abandoned me to pursue. "Perhaps you should consider careers that don't depend on exploiting family members during medical recovery," I suggested. "The vacation rental industry rewards genuine hospitality, not conditional caregiving." 6 months after losing their property, I learned through mutual acquaintances that their marriage was experiencing severe strain, as they blamed each other for the decisions that had cost them their primary source of wealth and future security. Heard from Dr. Harrison's office that Michael and Jessica separated, my physical therapist Maria mentioned during one of my annual checkups. Apparently, they're in counseling trying to work through financial stress and trust issues. That's unfortunate, I replied, though I felt no responsibility for the consequences of their choices. Crisis often reveals whether relationships are built on genuine partnership or mutual exploitation. The fact that they were turning on each other rather than accepting responsibility for their joint betrayal revealed that neither had learned the fundamental lesson about putting family before personal gain. A year after my property acquisition, the success of their former vacation rental under professional management became a constant reminder of what competent hospitality actually looks like. Eleanor, your Emerald Coast property just received its 15th five-star review this month, David Rodriguez reported during our quarterly business call. Guests consistently mention the seamless check-in process, luxury amenities, and responsive management that makes their vacation exceptional. What's the occupancy rate looking like for next year? I asked. We're already at 87% occupancy for next summer, with bookings coming in at an average of $420 per night, he replied. That's 23% higher than what the previous owners were achieving. Watching the property thrive under management that prioritized guest experience over personal convenience provided more satisfaction than any family relationship based on exploitation ever could have. The most meaningful outcome has been the financial freedom that comes from having business arrangements that reflect competence and integrity rather than family manipulation. My vacation rental portfolio now generates over $680,000 annually across 18 properties, with the Emerald Coast flagship leading performance in every category. More importantly, every property is managed by people who understand that hospitality means putting guests' needs first, not abandoning them when inconvenient. You seem genuinely happier now than during your recovery period, my friend Susan observed during a recent visit. It's like removing the stress of dysfunctional family relationships allowed your natural energy to return. Exactly, I agreed. Good health is wonderful, but having business relationships built on mutual respect rather than exploitation is equally important for peace of mind. 18 months after the property acquisition, I received one final attempt at manipulation that confirmed I had made the right decision. Michael and Jessica sent a certified letter requesting a family legacy meeting, where we could restore relationships and discuss arrangements that would honor our shared family history. The letter was carefully crafted to sound like genuine reconciliation, while actually requesting that I sell their former property back to them at a family discount price. We understand that we made mistakes during your recovery, they wrote. But family relationships should be more important than business disputes. We hope you'll consider arrangements that allow us to rebuild our lives and restore the family harmony that medical stress unfortunately damaged. I showed the letter to my attorney, who smiled and shook his head. Eleanor, they're still trying to frame their exploitation as medical stress, rather than acknowledging their deliberate choices, he observed. Some people never learn the difference between consequences and punishment. I didn't respond to their letter. Actions during vulnerability reveal character, and their actions had revealed everything I needed to know about their priorities and values. The final lesson I want to share is about the power of financial independence as protection against family exploitation. When you have resources and expertise, you don't have to accept abandonment, conditional love, or transactional relationships from people who claim to care about you. You can make decisions that reflect your actual worth, rather than their manipulative expectations. My hip replacement recovery was completely successful, with full restoration of mobility and function. But more importantly, it provided invaluable education about the difference between genuine family support and opportunistic exploitation. Michael and Jessica's 2-hour abandonment at a farmer's market cost them $1.8 million in property value, plus hundreds of thousands in annual rental income. It also cost them access to the family business expertise and financial resources they had been counting on for their future security. The luxury beachfront property that now generates premium rental income for my portfolio provides genuine value to guests who appreciate excellent service without exploitation, abandonment, or conditional hospitality. Sometimes the hottest betrayal leads to the coolest business success and the most expensive education about the cost of abandoning family members during their moments of celebration and vulnerability. If this story has inspired you to examine your own family relationships and financial boundaries, make sure you're subscribed for more stories about choosing yourself when others won't choose you. Remember, protecting your resources from family exploitation isn't selfish. It's smart planning that ensures your assets benefit people who actually deserve them through their actions, not their promises. Trust me when I tell you that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is allow people to experience the full financial consequences of their abandonment and manipulation. What would you have done if your family abandoned you during your recovery celebration? Have you ever had to use your financial resources to hold family members accountable for their treatment of you? Share your thoughts in the comments below and let me know where you're watching from. Your stories help other viewers realize they're not alone in dealing with family financial manipulation. Sometimes the coldest abandonment at a farmer's market leads to the warmest satisfaction of owning beachfront property, and the clearest understanding that real family support doesn't come with conditions, charges, or convenient scheduling. The property deed I signed that October wasn't revenge. It was education about respecting people during their most vulnerable moments. And judging by the continued success of that property under competent management, it was also a pretty good investment decision. Never forget, genuine hospitality means being there when people need you most, not abandoning them when it becomes inconvenient. That's a lesson worth $1.8 million and one that Michael and Jessica will remember for the rest of their lives. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.